All right. Great. I guess we're on. So, hello, everybody. So while we are waiting everybody to join, could you please just help us to understand if you are working in an agency or in an in-house team? So let me just launch a poll question for you. You should be able to see it streamed on your screen. All right, many answers already. Great. Meanwhile, hello, everybody. Welcome. I am Kalina, Demand Generation Manager at Watergraph, and here we have our second webinar. Today, we want to share with you our experience related to marketing report building and how we can create better reports for clients, and also why not for internal departments as well. So on the other end, I have with me Mantas. So Mantas, care to say a few words, please?
Hey, how's everyone doing today? So, yeah, my name is Mantas. I'm the head of demand gen here at Watergraph. And I've been in marketing for about 7 years now. And before joining Watergraph, I spent quite a bit of time working on agency side and consulting different businesses. I've been doing marketing reporting for a long time, and I hope to share with you some of the best practices and tips I've learned over the years. So back to you, Kalina.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Great. So before we begin, during the webinar, you will have the chance to ask questions. So please feel free to use the QA section that should be in the Zoom menu right next to the chat box. And if we talk about the chat box, also, we will get the chance to ask you some questions over there. So feel free to join the conversation. Now, in the end, we will have a QA session where we will be able to give answers to all or some of your questions if there will be too many. So Mantas, care to share the poll results, please?
Yeah, sure. So it seems that most of the folks are coming from the agencies, and that's really good to see because we are more going to focus on the agency side reporting to the client. Although we also going to touch upon how you can report your CMO and share your insights and results with your in-house marketing team as well. So let's move.
Super. All right. I guess we have something in store for everybody. So for me personally, being a freelancer for the last 3 years, I have come across different clients with different expectations. But of course, there was also some common ground, and that was represented by the needs to receive timely and accurate reports, of course. So I know people who like to work with data. I know I am one of them. But when it comes to reporting, sometimes in the past, I just found it kind of difficult to grab it from somewhere, mostly because I think I didn't quite understand the needs of my clients or the possibilities that I have in order to improve this process. So just like we can see displayed here, marketing reporting is definitely a huge time suck. And if besides all the work that we do, we also add different requirements that each client has, and also the number of sources, the number of clients in the portfolio, or the reporting frequency, we will see that the working hours just continue to add up. So I definitely agree with this industry survey that confirms the fact that agencies spend 1 hour or more on reporting per each client per week. So if we add up some average numbers of hours, we get hundreds of hours that translate into work weeks. So when it comes to what takes most of my time in reporting, I think is trying to provide good insights and actionable actions based on results. Now, I would also like to understand what takes most of your time when it comes to reporting. And also, Mantas, how about you? What do you struggle with, or what do you spend most of the time when you do reporting?
Yeah, so I actually do agree with you, Kalina, that insights take probably half of the time. I also think gathering data from different sources like Google Ads, Facebook Ads, CRM, and so on, and then consolidating it is another task that requires a big chunk of time. So getting data from different marketing channels, again, CRM, sales platforms, and connecting this together so it would make sense can definitely be draining process, especially if you have a lot of clients.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. All right. Now, sorry, I had the chat open. Now, let's see about it. Being able to deal with some work frustration or investing some more time in what we do is one thing. But if we spend hours on putting reports in place, but not even the clients get any value out of it, then I don't know what's the point. So according to a survey that we ran last year among agencies and their clients, 42% of clients say that they are unhappy with the reports that they get. So then the question comes in, why do we still do it? I sure do it for the insights that I can get and the actions that I can do forward, exactly the things that I invest most of my time in. Now, what about you, Mantas? What's the main reason why you do reporting before going into the top findings that we laid on for today?
Yeah, so I think the main reason why I do reports, and I believe others do that too, is to provide the ROI. So we as marketers get budget, right, and all other resources that we need to use to achieve our marketing goals or business goals. So at the end of the day, we need to prove that those resources are bringing the results. And I think reporting helps to do that. So I would like to also ask folks who are attending this webinar, so what is the main reason you do reporting? Just type your answer in the chat, please. And just to answer someone's question, yes, recording will be provided.
Awesome, great. So while you take your time to give us your insights, we have thought about the 3 main reasons why we think reporting should be is considered a very important part of all the marketing activities that we do. So first, totally we do it because numbers definitely speak for themselves, and they can show the return on investment, the return on ad spend, and other important metrics that can exactly express the results that the money and the marketing efforts brought. And of course, because you can't really have a coffee every time a person from the client's team wants details on marketing performance, although it would be nice to have time for that, reporting is a great instrument to keep everybody informed. So also, not sure if you've thought about this, but just try to imagine that showing how a campaign performs on a channel can create new opportunities to include additional promotion channels or new campaign ideas that are leveraging on your numbers. So although there are many more other benefits, I think that we should move directly to the pain point from today. So how can we fall in love with reporting, and can reporting not suck? So I definitely think that it can be a more joyful activity rather than a pain. And I say this because I think that if we improve its quality, then we definitely can improve our work satisfaction and our clients, the value that we provide to the clients. So Mantas, I think you agree with this, and I would really like to understand from you, what do you think makes a good report, and how do you master your reporting and at the same time enjoy the work that you do and keep peers happy?
Yeah, sure. So I strongly believe that a good report should clearly highlight what is going well or not so well. And from my experience, I do not find that often in reports. So ultimately, an effective report should deliver performance results. Then based on those results, it should provide recommendations and encourage readers to take action, be it a new campaign launch, new service agreement, or increased media spend. If we don't deliver the results effectively, then client will struggle to take action and won't be able to perceive the full value we provide as an agency or a marketing team.
Yeah, totally agreed.
So therefore, today, I would like to share with you some best practices that I gathered through my experience throughout the years working in the agency and in different marketing teams, also consulting. So again, after building and sending lots of reports and dashboards myself, I've created 4 steps to help you to improve your reporting. So let's dive in. The very and the most important step to build an effective report starts with identifying and understanding the requirements and expectations. And to do that, we need to make sure we cover 3 parts. That would be KPIs, the context, and supporting metrics. So let's have a better look at each of these. So the foundation of every report is the KPI. So first thing you need to do is to identify your KPIs. As we all know, most reports are complicated Excel files or 100-page PowerPoint decks with the many metrics, segments, dimensions, graphs, and whatnot. So often it is nearly impossible for us or our clients to understand what happened and what action should be taken now. So if you think that your report is not being admired, or you suspect that no one is even looking at it, my guess would be that your report contains lots of metrics and probably not many KPIs. So suggestion here would be, as much as possible, your report should mainly consist of KPIs.
All right, and sorry for interrupting you here, but I would really like to understand what's the difference between a metric and a KPI. And I think that would be nice for our audience to make it clear for everybody.
Yeah, sure. So I think we all know what KPI means, but then the issue we face is actually identifying the right KPIs. So, well, the difference between metric and KPI is that a metric is just a number. So it's usually good for tactical purposes. It moves small things. On the other hand, a KPI is a metric that helps you to understand how you're doing against your main objectives. So there's a big difference, right? For example, our marketing team's main objective is to generate opportunities for sales team. So our main KPI would be the pipeline generated by marketing activities and, of course, the marketing budget. And although we still track traffic and leads and CTR and how our different parts of different channels work, we do it on a tactical level, because at the end of the day, more traffic or better rank on SERP might not necessarily lead to more pipeline or revenue. So my advice is, talk to your clients, talk to your team, spend lots of time trying to understand what critical few metrics drive your business, and then use those as your main KPIs.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot. I think it's very clear, but I have an additional question here. So usually, or in the past, I tended always to overcomplicate stuff and maybe to add more KPIs than needed in a report. So do you have any recommendations in terms of how many KPIs a report should have?
Yeah, I've seen that happen a lot. So as a general rule of thumb, there should be, again, from my experience, there should be no more than 5 or 4 KPIs. So usually this is the way I look at this. Well, in most cases, there's a budget, right? Then there's something that we need to deliver or achieve with that budget. So usually it's some sort of customer action or behavior. For example, it could be a sale or registration or some other conversion. So now you also probably want to understand how effective your activity is. And I think return on investment, or ROAS, helps to do that. And finally, I always recommend tracking how much that action cost us. So that could be cost per sale, cost per registration, cost per conversion, and so on. And here you go, you already have your 4 KPIs.
Yeah, totally. Great. Thanks a lot. Now, also, do you think that there could be some common KPIs that could be used in any industry or in any area?
That's a really good question. So to be honest, I think it differs for every business. Nevertheless, I believe every business goal is to generate revenue, and marketing team should be held responsible and accountable for that too. So in our team, the most important metric, like I said, is revenue and sales opportunities created via different marketing activities. So I still say that KPI should be something that has an impact on revenue.
All right.
Hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely does. All right. Sounds good. Let's move on.
Cool. Let's move on. So now let's talk a bit about context. So there's one rule that I have, never report a metric all by itself. And by metric, I mean KPI. One of the biggest reporting mistakes is not making clear if performance is good or bad. Most clients usually only ask for data, again, at least from my experience. Therefore, it is our job as marketing consultants and specialists to complement that requested data with context. So here we need to make sure that no KPI exists without context. And this is the only way to ensure that clients get insights rather than questions, because again, who likes to get more questions after sending a report, right? And so there are many ways how you can show the context. So you can use preset targets, time periods, averages, and so on.
All right. And given all these that you've just mentioned in the end, could you also maybe share some examples of how we can use these?
Yeah, sure. So first, like I said, you can use preset targets. So for example, you can compare media spend target versus actual spend and how you're pacing. You can use time periods and compare performance week over week, month over month, year over year, whatever is the period that is most appropriate for a business and buying cycle. You can also use averages. So, for example, if you have some data, you can compare actual cost per lead with your average cost per lead. If you are starting fresh and have no averages yet, you could maybe use industry benchmarks and look at how similar industries, what metrics have different, the different industries. Finally, in some cases, you can even use competitors' data. So for instance, you can compare the impression share for Google Ads that your competitors have and you have, and see, how you can improve that. I also would look at position on SERP. If I would do SEO, number of backlinks is a good metric, and so on. So I have a more practical example that I would like to share with you guys. So here we can see our KPIs, but that's that, right? We got our media spend, conversions, our CPA, cost per conversion. It does not say much though. Now let's try to compare the performance of our KPIs to the last month. Here you go. So now with our month-on-month data, we can already tell that we spent less money, generated more conversions, and managed to drive down the cost per conversion. So in other words, we are doing much better job this month compared to the previous month, which is great. Let's add even more context by looking at the last 6-month data to identify the trend. So by looking at the time charts below, we can already tell that June was one of the best months since January. What else we can see? We can also tell that we have been driving conversion price down since February, if you look at the bottom right table. So well done to us. Now let's go an extra step and add our targets to this report. Okay, so these goal widgets in the middle that you see now shows us how well we are reaching our targets versus a given time period. So from this, we can see that we not only had the best month, but also reached our targets almost 2x by spending less budget, almost 20% less budget, in fact. So now we can go to our client or CMO or team lead and say, look, we have already reached our targets. We have some money left. Let's use it to expand our campaigns or test new channels or do new activities or whatever else you could upsell, right? So I guess that's pretty easy to achieve.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks. So the last step is supporting metrics. So I strongly believe that every report must be actionable, because at the end, if it's not actionable, then it does not really provide much value. So the last step of understanding the requirements is figuring out what supporting metrics and segments could help us to make the report and all this data more useful. So supporting metrics and segments essentially can help us to better understand what might have caused great or bad performance. And as you can see here, there are many different segments and metrics you can use to make your data more actionable. And I'm sure there's many more, but just a few.
Could you please share some examples of important metrics in your reports?
Yeah, so again, you might not like the answer. It depends. So those segments usually depend on KPIs and the level on which you are reporting. So, for example, if you're reporting on home marketing cross-channel level, you could break your performance by channel or campaign and see how each channel performed. If you're running different programs, then you could have a look at and split it by different programs. On the other hand, if you are reporting for a single channel like Google ads or Facebook ads, you could maybe break the KPIs by the campaigns, ad sets, ad groups, keywords, and so on, depending again on your account structure, business goals, and so on. In terms of SEO, you could break it by landing pages or keywords. Then if you think that the creative has the most impact on performance, for example, if you're running Facebook ads or YouTube ads, then why not to break it down by creative or ads? So the point I'm trying to make here is not to add everything that is possible and have this 100 pages report with all the nooks and crannies added in, but to add the information that can lead to an action. So let me give you an example to show you how it works in practice.
Sounds good.
Okay, so what you see above is just data and context. We know that performance is good, but what do we do now? What are the next steps we or our team or our client need to take? So essentially, this report is missing actionable insights. So let's add our supporting segments and metrics. Since we are looking at Google Ads performance, let's segment it by campaigns, and let's add the impression share, for example, as supporting metric. Here we go. So segmenting Google Ads performance by campaign gives us even more context now, and allows us also to see what's working and what's not. And suddenly, this metric is much more useful. So now we can instantly see that some campaigns are good and others are not so much. And different actions can be taken. So for instance, worse performing campaigns can be paused, while better performing campaigns can maybe be expanded, or you could invest more in it. On top of that, additional metrics that we have here, like impression share, allow us to see how much room we still have to scale the campaign. Right. So now we can go to our client again, or CMO, and say, look, if we will invest in the category campaign more budget, we will get more leads for a good price. And of course, you can do this with anything you want. So channels, keywords, pages, whatever, again, is important for your business and your KPIs.
Okay, sorry for interrupting again. Now, I also had a difficult time when it came to choosing the correct reporting period to compare with supporting metrics. So do you have any recommendations for this? What would you say is a good reporting period that could be relevant to compare with supporting metrics?
Yeah, another good question. So I don't think there is a correct answer though. It all depends on your sales cycle. Maybe you work in e-commerce and your sales cycle is just a few days. Then I guess looking at the 6 month would be good enough. On the other hand, if you work with B2B products and sales cycle could take maybe from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, then I would suggest looking at least 12 last month data. Yeah, I hope it helps.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So now, Kalina, could you maybe explain us how using visual elements can help us to explain our data better?
Yes, definitely. I prepared something on that. So thank you, Mantas, for the great insights that you shared with us. Now, I want to share with you what are the lessons that I learned in the last years while creating reports, and they resume to 4 insights on how to use data visualizations to show value and make everything easier for those who read your reports. So one of the challenges that I always have in my work is being kind of a perfectionist. So I'm saying that because this makes me overthink, overdo stuff, write too much when less is needed, and even provide more data when just the main 3 metrics would do. So one thing that I learned is that when you decide on 2, 3 key aspects with the client, but then because you want to give more or prove more, you just add additional data and visual elements, it only causes more confusion and then a lot of additional time spent on clarifications and poor experience. So I guess clutter is your enemy in reporting. Now, just think about every decorative or structural element that doesn't really serve us in the data representation and just remove it in order to reduce the effort required for your clients to make sense out of the data you provide. So this technique can be applied to charts, tables, and even text. So I believe that everyone is familiar with KISS method, right? K-I-S-S. Keep it smart and simple. So complicated will always be the enemy of clarity, I believe so. All right. Now, in order to give some examples here, so let's just look at this chart on the right. It represents the number of sessions per month in a given year. So I guess it's pretty straightforward. But if we start looking at it closer, there is a lot of cognitive load that we are introducing here. Some too much info that our memory has to digest. So we can see there's a border around the chart. We can see there's a drop shadow that isn't telling us too much. We see a bunch of vertical text that makes us tilt our heads, which just makes the experience a lot more poor. And we already understand the month just by looking at the month names. We don't need the category, and also the number of sessions. We understand they are sessions. We don't need that word anymore. And to all of this, we can also add all these grid lines that are basically useless, as we know that we are looking at 12-month data. So it's not giving us too much information. Now, if we switch this, and what if instead we do just a simple chart like this one that we can see on the right? We haven't actually removed information, but we can see it cleaner and it's easier to read. So our brain is definitely my brain is definitely more relaxed. I hope that yours too. And you still get all the information that actually matters. So when you go next time through your client reports, maybe try to start asking yourself, does the chart or visualization makes your head hurt? Or does your brain have to work harder in order to understand it? Or is it something that makes sense right away? So try to show just as much data as required and nothing more. You can kill the metrics, dimensions, time periods, visuals, and all the data that doesn't provide additional information.
Yeah, thanks, Kalina. It's really interesting to see how reducing some text and lines can make these graphs much more easier to read. Yeah, thanks.
Great. Thanks for the feedback. Now, moving to colors. talking about this, I think that in some cases it can be completely unnecessary. So we know colors can be tempting. They are definitely tempting for me. And there's sometimes a tendency to overuse them. So let's just look at the bar chart at the top. This example represents a case where color is really unnecessary, and it's also quite overwhelming. So we will try to figure out what the different colors mean, but we already know that because we have the labels there. So a horizontal bar chart also shows us different categories anyway, so we don't need additional colors just to indicate that. Also, when it comes to colors, I would not use bright or flashy colors and would just keep it to neutral because it's less overwhelming and it's much easier to digest.
Okay, just jump in here. So what would you then recommend using more than one color?
Well, I guess there could be cases like you can see I've added 2 charts just so we can see the difference between the one where we don't use so much color and the one that we use. So I guess the second chart here could be a good example. Here we used 2 colors and we used one in order to highlight the most important finding that we want to take into consideration. So that way we can see it more easy, and it's definitely contrasted from all the other data that we have. Does this make sense?
Yeah, I guess that does make sense and helps to make graphs easier to read, grab that attention. So yeah, thanks.
Thanks a lot. All right. So I remember that most of the reports that I sent like 1-2 years ago had most of the comments included in the email rather than in the report itself. So clients had to juggle all the time between 2 data sources, between the email and the report, just to try to make sense out of the story. So the question is, why not try to include the text structures directly into the report, and also maybe try to keep it to a minimum of 2 areas, maybe findings and recommendations. So graphs, charts, or word clouds are enormously important when reporting comes into play, because text is what proves the data, right? So text provides insights into the findings. It summarizes data and reveals trends across channels, across campaigns, ads, and so on. So I like to take 2 or some important aspects into consideration when working with data visualization. So that would be being able to summarize large amount of information into small pieces of text, and also try to make data easy to understand and making sure that what's most important catches the attention first.
Okay, could you maybe share with us what type of visual elements you would recommend using then?
Well, I don't really have a recommendation on what to use, mostly because the possibilities are limitless, but I actually have a do not use example. So pie charts are a great example of a too much data load, and we should try not to use them or opt not to use them. So if we look at the pie chart that we have on the slide, we want to know how different channels performed in terms of sessions. So basically, we are looking at the 2 bigger pie slices, the red and the blue one, and we want to know which one of them is greater. So can you easily tell? I surely can't. So this demonstrates that in general, we are not very good at comparing areas, especially if there's only a small difference between them. So now if we look at the legend, we can see that paid search is a little bit bigger, but to rank all of them, our brain would just have to bounce back and forth many, many times in order to be able to memorize the legend and to make sense out of the entire data. So what if instead we just represented this data using a simple horizontal bar chart, which we can see at the bottom right corner of the screen? So now enough about data visualization. Let's move to a very important part of reporting, I would say, which is insights. So Mantas, care to share a few here?
Sure. Thanks, Glenn, again for great tips on visual elements. So, holy trinity of insights. So I firmly believe that no report should exist without insights. I mentioned that already quite a few times. So to make your job easier, I'd like to share with you the simple framework that I call, again, Holy Trinity of Insights. And as the name suggests, it consists of three parts: insights, recommended actions, and business impact.
All right, just sorry to interrupt you. Now, the name does suggest that it consists of three parts, but I have never asked you, why do you call it like that, the Holy Trinity of Insights?
A good question. I knew you were going to ask this. Well, I suppose it has three parts, and all of them are equally important. So, each part supports each other. And I guess if you would miss one, it would not be holy anymore. So, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Great emphasis on showing the importance of all of them. Good. Thanks.
Cool. So let's move to the first part. Like I said, and it's insights. So when you write insights, please do not repeat what the data already says. We can already see that in the different tables and graphs. So instead, explain what caused your KPIs to be up or down. For example, if your cost per conversion increased, so why is that? Is it because of more aggressive competition, seasonality, or something else? So look at what could have caused the wins or losses and what changes the market might have impacted the performance. So this part is really important. Now, moving on, the second part is recommendations for action. So here it would be best if you suggested what action the client should take. Explain what should be done next. An easy formula for this that I used to use in my earlier days is metric X is down because we did Y. Therefore, I recommend doing X, Y, Z. And those recommended actions could be for your team, for your client, to do for a client's team, and so on. So I'll give you an example. We missed our conversion targets because our cost per conversion increased due to aggressive competition. Therefore, I recommend either increasing a budget or focusing on less competitive keywords. An easy hack for this, where possible, recommend stopping things or amplifying things. So if the campaign is performing really well, why not to recommend investing more in it and expanding it? If it's underperforming, you can just recommend reducing the budget or pausing it. So finally, we have the third part of providing insights, which is business impact. So here you need to explain what impact your recommended actions will have on business. So for example, sending X more traffic to the top converting landing pages will result in X more conversions and revenue. Sometimes this do requires a bit of effort, but I promise it will be worth it. And I promise that your clients or your internal team will appreciate it. So once you have covered all these 3 points, include them in a section, not at the bottom, but at the very top of your report, because this is the most important part, and that is your insights.
Awesome, great. I think that this might be the most important part of every report that we do or send. Now, Mantas, do you have any other tips prepared for us today?
Yeah, actually, I have 2 more tips in my pocket. So, the first killer tip should help you with the insights. It's called the tribal knowledge. It wasn't me who came up with it, so I'm borrowing it, although I cannot remember from who. But often agency consultants don't have all the information and all the context. And sometimes when we look at all these different numbers, metrics, trends, we find it hard to explain why something has happened. I don't know who knew that the registration form was down for 2 days, or none of our campaigns were properly tagged, right? So remember, there are many moving parts in the business and many people involved. So I guess the best way to get more context is just to talk to your clients, talk to their teams, learn more about their business. Go for coffee. I know, if you can't, and these days we're all remote. Just jump on a call, grab a lunch together virtually. So yeah. The other tip that I have, which I suppose is very often overlooked, is the acronyms and abbreviations. So we marketers love nothing more than using acronyms and abbreviations. So much more efficient. We say, how can you not love CPC, CPL, PPC, SEO, CTR, or SERP, or whatever else? We have a huge list. So everyone knows CPC, right? So not really. And I guess I learned that hard way. So I have a short story to share from my own experience. During my agency days, I remember once I had a client call to discuss the performance of a big campaign, and performance, to be honest, wasn't the best. So I spent hour presenting Google Ads results. At the very end of the presentation, one of the clients asked me if I could explain what CPC and CPL means, and I was like, man, I guess that presentation made no sense for them, as they did not understand the metrics that I was reporting on. So again, it's a small thing, it's often overlooked, but it can make client feel lost. So first, try to avoid abbreviations at all. If you can't, then explain it in a clear English somewhere in the footer.
Great, great story. Great story, Mantas. I really think that it happens a lot, mostly because also sometimes people just pretend to know something, but they have no clue about it. And sometimes we are afraid to ask questions because we are afraid that we're going to look stupid. But yeah, I guess just to reduce the possibilities to be misunderstood, just try to be more clear with what you have to say. All right. Now, let's do a quick summary of what we've been through today. So we have found that client reporting is definitely a pain point for both agencies and clients, but both sides need it in order to prove value and to keep everybody informed and in the loop and to take actions. So in order to ease the pain and to create more comfort to customers, we can definitely do some efforts to build better reports. So we shouldn't consider a report just data puke. It can be even called a framework that you build together with your client in order to prove through KPIs and supporting metrics and context how the marketing objectives have been met and where the budgets are being spent. So if we perceive reporting as just another task to check on the list and not try to provide a data visualization that makes impact, not just through nice charts, but through insights and actions, then we can't really stay relevant and improve. So also that's not it, because action is very important. Because if reporting is not done in order to improve performance, adapt and host a continuous feedback loop, then we are not using it at its best. So now just try to imagine combining all these newly acquired skills from today with a reporting automation tool that can transform your tedious, time-consuming reporting task into a service that can provide value to clients and can help your business grow. So any questions?
So just before we move on to Q&A, I actually have a question for the audience. I'm just curious to see how many of you folks are currently using a tool or platform to automate your marketing and reporting. So again, if you can, just please type it down in the chat box.
Okay, I actually prepared a poll for this, so we can just launch it. I'm just launching it. Are you currently using any reporting tools? So just click yes or no. Okay, and while we stand to get this answer, we have some data to start creating a top-notch report. And after you finished your first improved and updated report, that can feel pretty rewarding for sure. But if you think of all the effort that you need to invest in all the reports for all the clients that you need to send, then for sure you need a way to scale the reporting process so that it requires a bit less struggle and less time. Why not? So let's take report automation platforms like Watergraph, for example, where you can create a report once, you connect your data sources, and have the new reports go out every month or every week or whenever you set them to with up-to-date data. So this won't be the silver bullet that solves all your problems or provides you with new customers, but for sure it's going to solve one of your problems, which is freeing up more of your time so that you can concentrate on what matters most and to work on new initiatives or to try to bring new clients. So today was supposed to be our last Black Friday day, which included a 20% discount on any Watergraph annual plan. So just for our webinar participants for today, that's you, we have an extended offer. So we're extending this offer of 20% discount 7 more days. So in order to catch the offer, you just need to enter watergraph.com/BF22 and to get your discount.
Great, thanks, Lena, for sharing takeaways. So again, shameless plug, this is really good offer. So I would highly encourage everyone of you guys to just check it out. And I guess, okay, then let's go to Q&A. And if you folks have any questions, please just type it in the Q&A section in the chat and we will take it from there.
All right, while we're waiting for some questions, we can also share the poll results. So we can see that 26% of people of our attendants are not using a reporting tool, while 74% are using one. So let's see if we gathered some questions. I see that we also have some questions in the chat box.
Yeah, I see that one of attendees asked, are you going to share the presentation afterwards? So yes, we're going to share presentation and the recording or link to the recording. So yeah, for sure. The second question is, how did you make the spend versus targets? So my background is actually in paid media. So I used to work and still work and spend lots of time working with Google ads, Facebook ads, and so on. So spend versus target, I think, is very common tool to use. It's just to see how you're pacing. So one of the things that I'm personally actually proud that we have in Watergraph is goal widget. And goal widget allows you to just add the target spend. So for example, you have 5K to spend over the month, right? So you just put 5K and you connect your widget to your source. So it could be Facebook ads, for example, and you automatically see how you're pacing, how much you're supposed to be spending every day, and how much budget you're remaining, how much you should have spent by this over this time period, by this day. So it makes your job, I guess, as at least paid media specialist, much more easy, and if you multiply those goal widgets by, I don't know, during my time, I had like 32 clients. So it's really helpful because I used to do that in Excel sheets and Google Sheets. So, it would take me lots of time. I would have to copy and paste it manually and so on. So yeah, it's just a bit of headache. So again, this widget makes my life and I believe other guys and girls who work in agencies and report on paid media life much easier. And I saw some questions in the chat as well. Jamal is asking, is there any way to provide a real-time reporting dashboard and how? Yeah, so I know we talked a lot about reporting and how, to provide insights and so on, but all these steps are relevant to dashboards, and WhatsApp has a feature. It's not actually a feature, it's something that is available to all of our solutions in the platform that is called live reporting. So, you connect your different sources, again, different marketing channels, and it passes the data straight into your report. So, if you want, and your clients are really needy, you can create a separate dashboard and just share link with them, and they would be able to access that anytime. So, for example, during my time, I had some clients, after even sending a report, asking me lots of questions, and then I would have to go to Google Ads, download the report, make it nice, and send it to them, answer some questions, and do that back and forth, back and forth. So that live dashboard helps to avoid that. So yeah, we do have that in our platform.
Great. I see another question coming from Renin. Can I make a report for myself to monitor all channels and reports for marketing manager, CEO, etc., without having to update each report separately? Well, if I'm clearly understanding the question, yes, definitely you can include as all the channels that you want in the same report and get data on all of them. So you will not need to create a separate report for each source that you have.
Yeah, just to confirm, so we as a team, as an in-house team, also use Photograph for in-house reporting. So, I'd say it really depends how many sources you have. So, for example, maybe you work in a franchise and you're looking after marketing, and you have different marketing teams running different campaigns in different locations across, I don't know, America or Europe or globally. Then you would you could have that big dashboard, which would help you to understand how each location is comparing and each franchisee is performing in terms of marketing, of course. So yeah, you can definitely build in-house dashboard, and even we have this function that allows you to schedule reports. So you can schedule different reports to send it to different managers. So for example, your CEO or VP of marketing might not need all the details of PPC or SEO, but they might need, the overview of cross-channel performance. So you could create this sort of report and then just schedule it to be sent every first day of the month, for example. So yeah, there's plenty of flexibility of what you can actually do with the tool. Dominique asking, are the 20% off is just for new subscriptions? Yes, it's just for new subscriptions. Eva is asking, if the agency is working on the ambassadorship of one or more people on the LinkedIn platform, can we also track the data for the ambassadors? So again, I'm not sure how you guys define ambassador, but from what I understand is that some people or influencers are helping you and you would like to see their performance. So if you have agreement that if you have agreement with them and they allow you to connect their sources, then yes, because we have LinkedIn integration, for example. And if you have people for example, different influencers promoting your brand on LinkedIn, then you could just connect their accounts to the dashboard, and then you would see their performance as well.
All right, great. So let's answer the question from Fernando. Can you share a good report from your point of view? Well, Mantas included, and in the data visualization, and both in the first part, we included many good examples of reports. But don't worry about this, because in the recording email that you will receive, we will also provide a handout where you can take a better look at the examples that we already provided today, so you can just get some inspiration from there.
Yeah, so if So if you go through the slides and you look at the very one of the very last slides, we actually showcase in the slides what the graph itself. So even this slide is the actual tool. So the way I build it, I think you can just use it, as a template maybe, or as a framework to build your other reports. If that helps. We also have lots of templates, so you can check our report library, and depending on your needs and the channels that you're looking after, you could maybe find something interesting there. What kind of support do you offer for setting up reports? Kimberly is asking. So we have our support is working 5 days a week, 24 hours a day. And we have these onboarding sessions. So yeah, I'm 100% sure that our team is helping every new client to set up everything and onboard them properly, so they would be familiar with the tool and would know how to benefit from it.
All right, great. Okay, we have an anonymous question here. If I have one campaign, 3 ad sets, interest, remarketing, lookalike, and 5 ads in each ad sets, can the system sum the same ad data? Example, leads, cost per lead, link clicks, CPC, and CTR. So if I understand correctly, you want to understand what kind of data you can grab or you can visualize for every structure that you have. So depending on the filters that you create, you can see and sum up the data on campaigns, on ad sets, on ads separately. So depending on what you need, you will be able also to see the totals depending on what you filter there. Mantas, correct me if I'm wrong, or if you want to add anything.
Yeah. So just to add here, yes, our system or platform can sum this the same data. So it has different levels. So if you would choose account level, it would show you whole account data. And obviously, if you have more than one account, you could filter which accounts you'd like to see. And then if you go to campaign level data, you could again filter campaigns you would like to see. But otherwise, it could also, if you choose not to filter, you would be able to see the whole performance of the whole, for example, every campaign, every ad set, and so on. So again, it has lots of flexibility. If you, for example, if you want to see particular 3 ad sets of your Facebook ads account, you can definitely do that. And all those metrics that you mentioned, leads, cost per lead, link clicks, CPC, CTR, yeah, we have all the metrics for most of the channels.
All right.
So Fernando is asking about templates. So Fernando, just find me on LinkedIn. I'll help you to build one myself.
All right, great.
Okay. Then Mary is saying that she saw a great presentation from Kaiser. Thanks, Mary. We're definitely going to check this out. And Eric is asking, do you support email attachment ingest as a data source? Yeah, not too sure, to be honest. I would have to check with our product team.
Yeah, but we can get back to you.
Yeah. We'll get back to you on that.
All right, great. So I guess all questions have been answered live. Thanks a lot for being so active today and curious and helping us to be more engaged with you with all these good and smart questions. And thanks a lot for offering us your time for today. And definitely see you next time. So have a good day, everybody. And thanks again for your participation.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks a lot for spending your precious hour with us. And yeah, have a lovely evening or a day. So cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.